Thomas.
Hey, brother.
Thank you for doing it. Come on, huh?
Yeah.
Yo, I was thinking about you, and one thing we've talked about is that we like to talk about God together.
Yeah.
And that every time I got a revelation, I feel like I always went to you.
Yeah.
Because I think your genuineness shows.
Mm.
And I always knew that you were on the same path that I was.
Yeah.
And once I left TC, dude, or once I have been around other people, I did realize how special that was.
Yeah.
And like I told you recently, I think I maybe took that for granted.
Sure.
So I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
And, thanks for doing this, dude.
Yeah, man.
Dude, what's a revelation to you? What does that mean?
I just gain knowledge that I'd never had before.
Yeah.
Like real knowledge. Like not just something that I took for granted, information that I took for granted, but a real understanding that now is going to change something, how I see something and how I do something.
A new thing.
A new way of looking and seeing and acting. Something that turns into an action. It's got to look like something, you know?
Yo, it turns into an action.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Because when it's happened to me, it's been such a... I wanted that. Dude, once you get it,
yeah,
and you're like...
Yeah.
Then maybe you haven't gotten it in a while, you're like missing, you know?
That's true.
That light bulb moment of something that like turns on.
Yeah, that was a beautiful thing in Teen Challenge, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you just talk about revelations. Like, when was the last time you had a conversation about a revelation you had with somebody? You know, like, I had it recently, but that's because I had a friend who used to be a pastor, still is a pastor, and he visited yesterday, so I seen him. And of course, you know, we always talk about those things, but on an everyday basis, that's not something that's typical, you know, even amongst friends from the church.
Yeah.
But
it's a special thing.
Yeah, it was cool, dude. That's what I think about when I think about you.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it. I was like, well, let me think about our relationship, you know? I was like, revelations. That's what we would talk about most.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were talking about one time how we would talk about these things, and you could tell if the other person was excited or not excited, and you'd be like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Because we're in Teen Challenge.
Yeah.
And you're not excited to talk about God. But your revelation is your revelation. You know, sometimes it's hard to get up for somebody else's.
True.
Yeah.
It means a lot more to you.
Yeah.
Will you talk about what revelation you got, or maybe insight into one
recently?
or something? Yeah.
Yeah. It was not doing enough. Like, I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
It was just like, you could do so much more. I don't know if that's a revelation or just a change of heart, really. That was more of a change of heart. I had a revelation recently of something.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I remember I was thinking about it, and I was like, I gotta share this with Lauren.
Can I share mine with you?
Yeah, share yours.
I just had one recently.
Yeah.
And, I was thinking about believers and maybe unbelievers.
Yeah.
And I've had a hard time understanding how that's such a giant gap. But I realized, like, God put this on my heart about, first of all, he's like, there's a scripture that says he shows his love to 1,000 generations, like a steadfast love. And it made me think about generations and what that's like if, like, man, if my father was a believer and then his father, and, like, how that could shape my life.
Mm-hmm.
And also how if, going back hundreds of generations, like, if you weren't, like, that can impact your children as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So maybe it's kind of hard to articulate a revelation sometimes, but
right.
Yeah, that was it. But then I came across this verse, dude, and I think it was great for this too, because it said let it be recorded to the next generation, so they may praise your name.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in Psalm somewhere, but that was another revelation in itself. Like, this is our job.
Yeah.
To tell the next generation about
the
good things of God.
Yeah.
And what a responsibility that is.
Right. Yeah, it's like you think about all the freedom you get.
Yeah.
And you think about just being saved, but then there's also this sense of responsibility now. And that's actually one of the revelations was him creating us. Man, I can't remember the verse now, but it was he had a work for you to do before you were even created. You know, like you have there's work to do. Like So it's just like, that's amazing, because it's like, okay, not only are we saved from hell, not only are we saved from your personal hells on earth, but we're supposed to be we're here to do work. Like, he has something for us to do while we're here. And like, it's so cool, because it's like, you can get trapped in the thought of surviving, or a thought of just celebrating that you're no longer trapped by something you were never supposed to be trapped in to begin with.
True.
But you got this job out there to do. And if you haven't even got it yet, if you don't even know what that job is yet, that's still awesome, because it's like, you got this thing you can still find out. There's so much more.
Yeah.
There's so much more, like, and then when you get to that work, when you find out what that work is, or what that thing is that you're supposed to be pursuing, he rewards you with more of it. It's just like, there's so much more. There's always more. He's a God of abundance. So
yeah. Yo, have you always been a believer, or like, what was your salvation like?
That's the thing. Like, a lot of people tell these stories where they had this time where they accepted the
moment.
Lord. Yeah. And I remember praying since I can remember. And my sister was a believer, and she told me to pray, and she told me Jesus loved me. And those are the two things I knew as a kid. I knew there was a God out there. I knew he loved me, and I knew I should pray to him and ask him for things. And that's what I did. So, but it's one of those things of revelation, like a revelation. Like, I look back sometimes and I say, was I even saved at this point in my life when I thought I was a believer? And so,
how do you feel about that now?
Now, I know I'm saved. I know that. I just, it's hard. It's hard to judge, yourself, because you get revelations, and then you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I know now. I have a different. It's like a doctrine, more so to speak, where I know I'm saved. I'm not going to lose that. I don't have to chase after that every day. I don't have to worry about losing that, because I'm just, I know that in my heart. So, yeah, now I know I'm saved. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but that's also, even that is just like, that's by grace. So that's even almost like, I know I'm saved, but it's by grace. Like, I don't have to earn that, but I still have to treat that like it's not something you take for granted. You know what I mean? Like, who you start getting cocky or something about that?
Yeah.
Like who are you to get? You're a Christian and now you're a cocky Christian. Like,
after you've been saved.
After you've been saved, like, yeah. But yeah.
Dude, I remember watching you share your testimony.
Cool.
Maybe at a school or something. But I remember is how the kids looked at you.
Yeah.
And it was different from how they looked at everyone else. And maybe I know that because how they looked at me, they were like sleeping or something. But no, I think people look up to you.
Oh.
And maybe it's your muscular stature. I don't know what it is. But no, you have God in you and you shine.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Yeah, I think it's I noticed younger guys tend to do that. Of course, younger men, if you have muscles, you seem whatever that's appealing to them superficially, maybe even be. So, they're gonna. I noticed that, so I try to capitalize on that, but in a good way.
Yeah, maybe a gift that
Not in a bad way. No, but I think it's a responsibility. Then it's more, responsibility. You gotta be that part. But yeah, I knew that. I knew that wherever I go, I know that wherever I go, there's going to be a tendency to the young guys. You look up to you a little bit. You know, the way you carry yourself, the way you look, whatever. It's cool. You get to use that.
Do you feel like that responsibility, like, on your shoulder? Is that something you carry or think about consciously, or?
At times, I become aware of it. A lot of times I become aware of it when I know I'm not acting the way I need to be acting. And then I say, hold on, dude, what kind of example are you being right now? True. And mostly that's maybe with a tongue, or what I'm not, like, necessarily standing up or making a point, like I'm not really, where I maybe kind of let something go and almost seem like I'm okay with it or something like that, more so like, maybe a joke or something, or, something that, I shouldn't be celebrating.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, don't be a part of that celebration, because people are looking at you. And I think that more about being a Christian. I don't really look at it as like, hey, you're this guy who guys are looking at.
Yeah.
But I think that the world needs strong men of God more now than ever. And so that alone is what maybe some of that, you got to step it up sense,
Yeah, there's that verse that says to walk in a manner worthy of the calling, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the walk. That's it.
Dude, one thing you helped me out with is you talked about conviction versus condemnation. And at the time, I really needed to maybe pick up on that.
Yeah.
But will you talk about that maybe? And
yeah, that's something that I struggled with early on in Teen Challenge. So the first example, I could just give you the example when I felt it at Teen Challenge. My revelation of that was we went out finally, first there for a couple months, whatever it was, and bam, first opportunity I got, I drank so much coffee. And I looked at every girl.
Yeah.
And I just felt terrible when I got back got back home at Teen Challenge. And I just started pouring all this condemnation on myself. And then I started saying, who are you? Like, you 3 months and you still do that. The first opportunity you got, you're not going to change. It's, and all this stuff. And then I was praying and I was reading something, and then it just hit me. Okay, the difference between condemnation and conviction is one leads you to repentance, closer to God. The other separates you and is false, and that comes from the devil. And that's trying to separate you from God. And so was that leading me to closer to God? No, that was making me feel like he was further apart. And that's what, the enemy does. He uses some bit of truth and warps it. And a lot of times it's even, you have a thought in your head, like I noticed this one time, like I had a thought in my head, then I took ownership of that thought. And then I felt guilty over that thought. And then I reaped condemnation over myself for that thought. And the thought was never even mine to begin with.
Yeah.
That's how he'll play games with you. And yeah, but that's the difference between condemnation and conviction. One leads you back to God. The other makes you feel as though you're not even worthy of him. And yeah.
What a powerful thing to be able to step back and almost place a label on those, those thoughts. It's something that I maybe need to do.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
You notice it, and then you're able to recognize it.
Yeah.
And say, okay, that's what that is right there. You almost detach yourself from it, And actually, I had a revelation since I've been gone. When I was in a relapse mode, I was in a stretch of it. And I was watching myself do these things, relapsing every day. But I was able to still grow closer to God and still love myself and still be able to pray and still be able to worship. And that changed something for me. That changed where I could acknowledge what I was doing and that it wasn't right. And I knew I had to repent, but at the same time, I did not condemn myself and I didn't take ownership or identity in that sin itself. I no longer combined them and made them one. I recognized it, I acknowledged it, and I allowed myself to still be the Son of God and work it out and know that I was gonna, repent for that. And that's what happened, that's what I did. And I think that was huge because it was before, you know how it is, we're all or nothing. So if I relapse, I'm gone. You ain't gonna see me. It's over, my life's over, I might as well throw in the bag, throw in the towel. But that was a shift. I could still pray. God still loves me. I don't have to hang my head and think everybody's better than me and, and all that stuff. So, yeah, that was a huge one.
How did that come about?
I was listening to a men's ministry called Brave. And the guy's Chris Volaton. He's a pastor from Bethel. And his son was an addict. Now he's turned into a leader of a men's ministry, and he was talking about that, and that's it. And so I'd still come to church, and praise. And at first, I wouldn't do that because I felt like a hypocrite. But then I said, I could still. I that's silly, like. But that's how that came about, and that was huge for me, man. That was like one of the best revelations because it still makes me look at that time, and I don't have to look at it and see nothing but terribleness and like I'm a terrible person and now I have to shut that out. I can accept it and I can still see God in that, and I can still see, you know, and it's just this addiction label thing too, you know. It's a bad label.
Yeah.
The addict is a bad label, and it condemns, really, you know.
It's tempting to think that stuff, like those times were a waste too.
Yeah.
You know, and that was a revelation for me too, is that God was using me even in those times.
Mm-hmm.
Someone recently said that I did one of these, and they were talking about accountability, and that they needed this platform, like that God was almost allowing, maybe not allowing, but it was just that he became their safe place.
Yeah.
And it seems like counterproductive to...
Like who became a safe place?
Or God became the safe place.
Oh, yeah.
Even when they were messing up, you know?
Yeah.
That,
yeah.
You know, because the first instinct is like, all right, man, I'm not praying, I'm not doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And but I think that's immature.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's an immaturity thing, and it's a natural thing, and it's a way the devil gets to capitalize on that stuff and keep you down. And best way to, you know, make another mistake is by staying focused on your last type of thing. And yeah, it's just that vicious cycle. But
Right.
I think that's powerful, man. I think more people need to understand that, like, you don't need to get cleaned up to come to church.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and you don't have to wait to praise.
You've talked about God has answered some prayers in your life. What's that been like for your faith, and for your prayer life?
Yeah, you know what? I wish I could say my prayer life has now become this amazing thing that I dedicate still an hour every day since Teen Challenge and give it its due, and that's not true. But he has answered a lot of prayers. I mean, it's an amazing amount of prayers. I cannot remember one prayer that he hasn't answered, really. But prayer is just one of those things where you always feel like you never do enough.
Yeah.
And you always want to do more, and that's what I'm in the process of doing now, just dedicating more time to that, because I'm doing that, you know, we talked about that 75 hard challenge, but I'm implementing, you know, a prayer time. And I want to get more into that and dig deeper into that and make that more of my day. But also, prayer changes when you're busy and you're living, you're working, and you got a son, and you're trying to get into, you know, military and doing all these other things, you know, relationships and church. Prayers throughout the day when I'm painting, you know, so.
Tell me about your son.
Connor.
Connor.
That's my boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 5. He'll be 6 on the 25th. So we had Connor in the midst of my, you know, mess before I went to Teen Challenge. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, you know, I'm going to do it. For 10 months almost, I was sober of his life, 9 months, and relapse fell hard. And then I went to Teen Challenge, and I was like, that's when, you know, the process of getting better and growing closer to God changed, and it started actually. But he's doing great. He's amazing. His life is remarkably different from what my life was. Sometimes I think about that, you know, it's just like we broke the cycle, you know, we're breaking cycles, and he's just so amazing. Like, I couldn't ask for a better temperament, better personality, just a better boy. He goes to private Christian school, which is a blessing, you know, especially nowadays. And he's just smart and amazing, and it's so much just hope in Jesus right there, you know. Like, I don't have to look too far to find inspiration, you know. So
Yeah.
He's got Holy Spirit in him already, like, so much, you know. Like, I was fighting with his mom one day. Not when I say fight, we were disagreeing.
Yeah.
And he's 4, maybe 3, and he just says, "Daddy, Mama loves you." And I just, you're right. And I just, no more. We don't need to talk about this, whatever we are disagreeing about, you know.
Right.
And that was it. And he's done that so many times. Like, just amazing. Like,
It's wild how
amazing.
God will use other people like that to speak into your life.
Yeah. I know.
Like your son.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. The other day not the other day, it was about 6 months ago. I got, the other day, 6 months ago, you know. But I got mad, you know, I was so mad. And I was just sitting there, and I'm just like.
Stewing.
And he's just stewing. He's like, "Daddy," trying to talk to me. I'm like, "Son, I'm really upset right now. I'm just going to sit here right now." And usually I'm never like that. I'm Mr. Love you, Daddy. But then he goes, maybe you should try to pray. And I was like, you're right. Son of a go to your room.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, he's amazing.
You said it was drastically different from your childhood.
Yeah.
Will you talk a little bit about maybe
Childhood was rougher than his. I was foster homes. My mom was alcoholic. My dad, the man that I knew to be my dad, I never met my biological dad, the guy that I know since I was, a baby, ended up molesting family members. I was taken out of the home, put in foster homes. He got us back, custody, crazy as that sounds. I came back home from foster home at 12 or so. My mom was in and out, stopped showing up about 15. That was the last time I seen her. Haven't seen her since. Grew up in the worst ghetto, bad place. Logan Heights, San Diego, a lot of gangs and stuff like that. And it was rough. I had my sister, my oldest sister was like a mom to me and took care of me and in a lot of ways. Me and my dad didn't get along, never did. So it was rough. I had, two brothers, younger brothers, 3 sisters, 1 younger, 2 older. Those ones, they could, even crazier stories. My one sister had a kid at 13 years old, was pregnant at 12, living on her own. 14, my oldest sister was working at McDonald's at 13 with a fake ID, living on her own. Been, abused by our dad, and then went to a foster home, abused there, kidnapped afterwards. I mean, just been.
Oh
Now she has a
gosh.
master's degree. She she has her own practice for abuse counseling, and does amazing. Like my whole family's done really well for
Is she a
where we
believer?
came from. Yeah, she's a believer. Yeah.
So God healed her from all.
Oh yeah, yep.
Do you feel like God has healed some of the trauma that you've gone through?
Yeah. My thing was, I was never someone who was scared to address things, I always knew you gotta talk about them. Recently, I had revelations about that I still have certain things about me and the way I interact in certain relationships and the way I view things that were created when I was a child. So like we were talking earlier, so relationships with men.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know how to take how, like my pastor is like a father figure, mentor to me, and if he would, be some type of corrective way, I interpreted that as, oh, you don't like me.
Yeah.
And that's from childhood, and then I'm very defensive. I can be very defensive, and I can start talking louder, and I don't notice these things, but then it was brought to my attention by the Holy Spirit that you're still thinking you can't be heard, you're not being heard, and you were a kid, no one was there to protect you, defend you, and now you still bring that in where you feel like you have to defend yourself, and you're nobody's hearing you, and men don't like you and stuff like that. So that stuff was brought to my attention not that long, about 8 months ago. This big conversation with pastor, my ex, and all that stuff, and I was just like, wow. It was the first time where I thought counseling would be maybe beneficial, because it was like, where else am I bringing the past into the current, and it's maybe making my view a little more subjective than I thought.
Yeah.
Because of these things. I never really put more, I was like, I don't need that stuff,
Yeah.
I dealt with it, and Jesus healed me, and I'm good, but you still like to look into those things and say, how am I bringing it into this relationship that I'm in with this person? Is there something from my past that's altering it or shaping it, and then you can do something about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to lay those burdens down.
Yeah.
I know God says that that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. I never want to be looked at as a victim or somebody who couldn't just function like a normal person,
Yeah.
So I push that away, but we're all learning how to function.
Right.
Some of us are digging a little deeper and have more to sift through, and so. Yeah.
You talked about going in the military.
Yeah.
Was that a thing that God put on your heart to do, or?
Yep. About 2 years ago, I was sitting right over there, and we were in here for a Sunday night prayer, and they have a Saturday night prayer. It's like a Saturday Night Teen Challenge kind of thing where they're playing music,
yeah.
praying, and I don't know if you know International House of Prayer, right?
I've heard it. Yeah.
So they got this 24-hour
Great
prayer room
pancakes.
on YouTube. Great pancakes. That too. But they have this 24-hour thing on YouTube where it's they're constantly just interceding for people to have experiences with Jesus Christ. Anyways, it's a ministry. They were praying to send people out and get a certain amount of people to fill the amphitheater and send all these missionaries out, like wherever, you know. And I was sitting there and I just felt the Lord say, you go. You need to go. And in military, it was law enforcement. And so I was like, okay. So I started the process of doing that, end up relapsing, getting off track. Now I'm back on track, and just went to the recruiters and working with the Air Force to get a waiver. I just met with, meeting with the sheriff of Ludington on Friday. He's supposed to help sign, or we're going to talk about him writing me a letter of recommendation. So there's some obstacles to get through. So
yeah.
Hopefully, you know, I was crazy. I was in you probably saw this. I was in the recruiter's office, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to go active duty. Actually, I wanted to go active duty, but I want to do what God wants, and I had no idea what to do. I was like, Lord, shut the door on whatever one that you don't want me to go into. So I prayed this prayer on the way to the recruiters, and I'm in the recruiters, and I'm ready to move forward with active duty and whatever we got to do, and the lights go off, and the power goes out. This was like 1 month, not even 1 month ago, like 3 weeks ago. About 3 weeks ago. Power goes out, and he says, man, I can't do nothing. We can't do anything. He's like, I've never seen this in the 2 years that I've been in this office. So I'm like, son of a... So I'm like, where's the next closest recruiter? I'll just go there. I was like, I wanted to do this, you know?
Oh, okay.
So then I get in the car, and I can't make it. There's traffic strength. The guy's like, I already have another appointment now. You know, we're not going to do it. And I'm like, all right, this is not active duty.
Door shut.
Door shut.
Whoa.
So for now, it's not active duty, but we're going to try to do reserves. And maybe one day we'll do active duty later in the future.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
You talked about some relapses, and as a guy who's gone through it myself, how do you get back up after something like that?
It's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
What else can you do?
Right.
And I have to get up. I have a son, you know, like that's one thing is you got to get up, you know, like, and I hate that I'm the master of getting up, but I am. You know what I mean? Like because I started this process before Teen Challenge, you know, I had many relapses before then, and I tried AA and all that stuff, and I had a lot of relapses, but I mean, what else? What's the alternative?
Yeah.
So you just get up, and I know how to get up. You do what you know to do, and then your spirit comes back, your mind comes back, and you learn. So.
Dude, Pastor Bill said something really that stuck with me. He talked about going back to the last thing that God had told you to do, and it's along the same lines of doing what you know to do. Mm-hmm. And that always really helped me. Yeah,
I know what he means, because I've done that multiple times where I'm like, where was I? And where did I stray?
Yeah.
And now it's not so specific, you know. It's usually you strayed when you started making compromises.
Yeah.
It always comes down to the same thing. You knew you weren't supposed to be doing that, and you started doing it, and then you start unraveling. But
yeah, you always stay longer than you intend.
Yeah.
It's a scary process.
Yeah, I think you definitely relapse spiritually and mentally before you physically relapse. No doubt about it.
True.
That's cool, though. I mean, the cool thing is you get accountability. You learn. I mean, I feel like at the end of this, man, like at the end of this, whatever that means, but like when we have years behind us and more years, you know, under our belt walking this walk, I mean, I feel like we could write a book on recovery.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like a great book. Or, I mean, I don't even mean literally a book, but I mean, we could really help people.
Yeah.
You know, just because this is something that's still, I think people are still, our society is still learning how to recover.
Yeah.
How recovery works,
right.
Especially for the Christian. Because maybe you don't buy into AA and you don't buy into these things. Like, there's still a real strong urge for a thing for Christians, and you see it with Teen Challenge, but like an actual thing outside of just going and getting help, and then, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, God has placed some pretty powerful men of God in your life, counsel, and just some wise people. What's that been like?
That's a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. I left Teen Challenge and moved in with a pastor who's, if you want to know the one word that people would describe him as, is genuine. And he's just a regular guy who's trying to serve the Lord with all his heart, and very humble, and graft me into their family in a way. But that's been amazing, man. That's how we learn. Like, that's how you learn how to be a man of God. We were talking about it, by watching other men. And we need that. We need to be disciples. We need to disciple, you know, and I think we all, maybe our whole lives to a certain extent, need to be under somebody, to a degree. And I don't mean under where you're constantly answering to them, but you have an elder.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, not even accountable, but also just like, I think there's a process, you know, like when you first get out, you probably need a lot of accountability, maybe from a place like Teen Challenge or something.
Yeah.
And as you grow, that accountability you still need, but it changes how it looks. It's maybe not checking in so much as just hanging around, and we need each other anyways. But yeah, that's been huge, man. Men of God, just being around them, because you are, you know, those guys that you hang around, and like you are what you behold. Like whatever you behold, you become. And if you're beholding good men of God, then chances are you're gonna be, being sharpened, and so.
What do you think your first exposure was to a man of God? Was that at Teen Challenge?
Yeah, like a real exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Like never was really around any man of God. Never.
Was it eye-opening?
It was cool. It was like, it was great. I had no real letdowns. You would think you were maybe let down, and sometimes you think you were, but you probably put too mixed expectations on somebody,
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's been great. I still look up to them in the right way, and I admire their work and stuff like that. Pastor Bill, Pastor Dave, Pastor Sam, like, of course, that's awesome. Those guys are awesome. So that was cool, man. They're just great. And at the end of the day, they're just guys. They're just cool guys. You know better than probably most. You work right next to them. So
Yeah.
that's cool. It's good. You need that. Who else are you gonna be around?
Right.
You got to be around somebody. You might as well be around guys like that.
What was Teen Challenge like for you?
Yeah, it was what I needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I needed that. And it really, and I think as time goes on, I'll still learn how much that's really shown me and helped me form the person that I am.
Yeah.
Because I learned what I thrive in.
Right.
I was always, as a former addict, alcoholic, I think most of us hate structure. We want to be left loose and do what we want to do, and too rigid, and that's too religious type of thing. But I actually love that.
Yeah.
that's I need it.
It's like the desire of our heart. Right?
Yeah, really. And in a lot of ways, I was pushing away from that.
Yeah.
Because then even accountability type stuff, because it's like you should be able to do it on your own. Well, guess what? No. I mean, like, you shouldn't actually. And you why fight that? Like, you thrive in that. Like, I thrived in that. I thrive in that environment. I thrive in a structured, disciplined thing. And so now I've like embraced it.
Yeah.
And it's like, duh. Like once you see, like now people tell me, like, I could totally see that with you. Like when I told them I first wanted to be in law enforcement, like, oh man, that feels right. That sounds right. And people that know you from Teen Challenge are like, we know each other in a 1 year gap of our lives very intimately.
Yeah.
But it's a very, almost what we wanted to be. Like we were striving to be our best in that time, of course.
Yeah.
So that's all I know of you was when you were striving to be your best.
At your best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people think, of course, Thomas is Mr. Discipline, does everything the right, but that's the opposite of me, really. That's just. But then I learned that's actually who I am. That's what I like. I like having brothers who are looking to me. And I have this sense of responsibility and duty to them. That's part of being a dad and being a man in general. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, dude, one thing you were always so consistent in your prayer. Like I remember always seeing you at the altar praying, and in a way, it caused something inside me to arise. Like when there's times where you're like, I don't, you're not feeling it.
Yeah.
But then you would see your brother go and do, and you're like,
Yeah.
man, he's leading by example.
Right.
And I remember, I just remember seeing you very consistent in your prayer, like there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. I remember going from all those chapels.
Yeah.
The one thing I learned was when there's time that's holy.
Yeah.
And it's all about God.
Yeah.
And it's like, doesn't matter what's going on around that. And it doesn't matter if you feel like doing it. You just do that.
Yeah.
And then you realize, I love doing this.
Yeah.
No matter how I go into this and how much I don't want to do this for some stupid reason.
Yeah.
I always get elevated and I love it.
Right.
But I remember Judah, he was like having a conflict right before before we go to chapel. It was kind of a conflict. I'm like, brother, you get in there and you worship, and that's it. That's what we do, no matter what's going on around you. And I was really speaking to myself. I remember just thinking, like having a revelation as I'm speaking to him,
Yeah.
And I love Judah. You need to get Judah on
Yeah,
here.
I know. I'd love to get him.
Have you heard from him?
I haven't really talked to him in a while. I saw him one time, but
Yeah.
yeah. I'm going to get a hold of him. I'm going to find him.
Yeah.
I'm going to find you.
Go Judah hunting.
Yeah.
I remember Judah. I gotta tell you that story. So when I first met Judah, first of all, when I would see him, I was like, oh, "This guy looks nuts." You know what I mean? Just giant mountain of man. I would never tell him that. No, but
He looks like the mountain, dude. That
he
big-
looks like the Rock.
Yeah.
And the mountain had a baby, and he went to Teen Challenge. So we're getting to know each other. First just talking. Literally, this is one of our first conversations, and he's like, I was like, "What?" No, not one of our first conversation, but I felt comfortable asking, like, what do you like to do for fun, Judah? And he's like, raise my lamb, or whatever it was he raised, his sheep or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's like, no, that's not right. He's all, I like slaughter them. Like, raise them, then slaughter them. That's my favorite thing to do. I was like, and he was dead serious. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Raised and slaughtered.
Yeah. First is slaughter them, but because I raised them.
Dude, we were out on grounds, and Judah was like, we had to do like grounds crew, and he had rakes, and he's such a big guy. He had 2 rakes in each hand. He's just raking, and I'm just sitting there like watching this dude, like this is a sight.
That's when you first met him?
Yeah.
That was your experience. Yeah. I guess when he first got there, he had like this giant beard.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Dude, we've come across a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And I think that's a gift too.
Yeah.
It's been a special experience.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, going through what you've gone through, what is your heart towards other believers who are kind of caught up in a mess, And how do you navigate that? Like maybe in a period when you're doing it better too, or...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really humbly.
Yeah.
And with the knowledge that, never come up on some... Who knows where they're at in their life, and... It's like it's a hard place. Like, what's the relationship with that believer?
Yeah.
If you have a good relationship with it, then you could say more. If not, then it's like you have to wait for that door to be opened.
That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah. But it's always, man, I feel for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you just hope they're gonna get out of that, because you know how hard it is, and you know the process of it. And like, if you get to know them a little bit, where they're kind of at, and how far and how much there is to that, and where they, it's just so much, it's just like, I hope they get the right people around them, and I want to be supportive of that. I'll do whatever I can, I remember when I first got out, I was like, let's send anybody to Teen Challenge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that scares so many people, dude. Have you ever tried to like tell people like, I think you need to go to Teen Challenge or something like that? Yeah. Like, hell no. Yeah.
It is a tough thing too. I found myself like, I think God was showing me like, He needs to be the one and not a place, also.
Exactly.
And it was hard for me because that place was so good to me, and God worked so strong through them that I wanted other people to experience that too.
Yeah.
But maybe we needed to experience a level of, like, we're extreme people.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. And I also always remember, just because this is how it worked for me, does not mean I have the blueprint, and this is what I need to say. This is how it works now.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, no.
It's such
I
a
don't
personal
know.
thing.
There's principles that work, but that's it. That's all I know is what God says works for sure, principles, and then other than that, I don't know.
Yeah.
And especially when you're close to a situation, sometimes it seems impossible. You know, like I know people probably in my life at one point like, when is this guy gonna get it?
Yeah.
Like I've had family members, like a brother, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like he's so not humble, not receptive, not willing. He went to Teen Challenge and left the same day. It's like, I can't relate with that because I was, even in my mess, I was willing, you know? But God figures all that out, and it's like so hard for you to see how it's gonna work. But he always works it out, you know what I mean? Like, and you're too close to it sometimes, you know? Like with a brother or something. But if you remove yourself, you see it. It happens all the time. It happens with us. It happened with all these guys we know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we get to see God really work.
yeah. Yeah.
It has been hard, especially with family or people that are really close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has there been times where, like, maybe your sisters or someone, they looked at the things you were doing and maybe didn't understand? I've always kind of felt misunderstood, and maybe even my walk, too. Like, do you feel like your family has understood what you've gone through?
So my family, nah, not really. I mean, my family, well, my sisters do. You know, my sister has. She's been through that. But you know, like my immediate family, my dad, not really. He doesn't really care too much about that. Like he was always like, why don't you stop drinking type of thing, you know what I mean? Like,
Thank you.
all right, I didn't think about that. Thanks, Dad. No, but like,
I didn't think about that.
yeah. Sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, I mean, I got lucky with my situation when coming out of Teen Challenge, and I got like not a new family, but I got another family of strong, you know, people in the faith, and were really guided by the Holy Spirit and really forgiving, and a lot of grace was poured out, you know.
Yeah.
So, and they know they don't understand. So, but at the end of the day, they understand, you know. Like, I've heard people say stuff like, if you don't walk in my shoes, you can't, or if you didn't go through these things. And it's just like, that's not true. Like, everybody felt pain.
Yeah.
Pain is pain.
Pain is pain.
Sin is sin. And decisions are decisions. Like, you had a decision. You know, all these things. Like, everybody deals with these. All humans. Like, you may call it an addict behavior, and this person has some other type of behavior or experiences, but people know how it feels. You know, pain feels, how bad choices, shame, and all that stuff works, and
guilt,
all that
suffering.
stuff. Yeah, and yeah.
Yo, you got a flip phone.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, what are some of the practical steps you've taken, maybe to just be more, to live a more godly life? I mean, is that one of them? I think we talked about.
Yeah, that's one of them. It's kind of like so when I had this revelation about 4 months ago where I wasn't doing enough, and I was just like, you have to give your all to God. That's the thing that's always, you know you're doing it, or you know you're not doing it. And if you're doing it, you're on the right road. If you're not, you're on the road, and you're on the wrong road, and you know it, you know?
Yeah.
And you know what happens. And so this was just one thing where it's just like, I'm gonna take these weights off. I'm not gonna let any little it's the small foxes Corey talked about in the Devo the other day. It's the small foxes, you know, like, it's the small compromises. It's the things that you know that you can rationalize, but know you should not do. And if you're not sensitive to those things and remove those things or address those things, then you're just prolonging it. So that was one thing where it was just like, I could sit here and fight that battle, whatever the battle is. Like, I'm getting distracted too much, so therefore I'll be at work and now I'm doing this, or I wanted to read more, but now I'm spending 20 minutes on the internet looking at Facebook or scrolling on some, thing that doesn't profit me anything. And it's just like, now I could sit here and I could fight the disciplined battle and say, I'll just be more disciplined. But why?
Yeah.
Choose your battles. Like, I don't have to fight that battle. I can do this. So that's what it was. Another thing is, the child of my mother, the mother of my child, Shar, I should always listen to her. You know, because she knows, you know, like every time I don't listen to these small pieces of advice, I always regret it. So it was one thing that she always like, because I brought up and then I would never do it, like get rid of, you know, social media or get rid of my phone or, you know, smartphone or whatever it was, because I want to and I just want to do that. And then so she just reminded me of it, and I was just like, I believe the Lord puts people in our lives sometimes and speaks through them, you know, and I think that was just one of those instances that I was like, all right, I'll do it. Because even now I rationalize it, I'll go back to my smartphone, but it's just like, no, it's just like, I think he just gives us these small things to trust us with, these small little things like to do, and you got to do them.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things where it's just like, the question was, what are the things, like practical things you do? Yeah, it's just,
because that seems like a very practical step towards.
Yeah. If you got a problem with, so I had a thing where I was looking at stuff I shouldn't be looking at, and that spiraled into a bigger thing. Yeah. Where I was engaging in profiting off of this. Yeah. You know, so it's just like, I'm not gonna go too deep into it, but you can imagine. And so it was just like, why am I allowing this thing in my life that I don't like? If this was a human being, I would never allow this human being to hang out at my house because of what they're talking about, what they're showing me, what I'm doing with them. Whoa. If I was trying to live for God, I would stop hanging around this person.
Yeah, it'd be clear.
It'd be easy. Obvious. Anybody would tell me that, and I'd know that, and I would stop. So why am I allowing it to still hang around, and why am I even playing around with that?
Whoa.
So.
Yo.
Yeah.
That's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where you can rationalize it. Oh, you got to be stronger than that. It's like, I don't have to do that. I can not fight that battle right now. I don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Yo, you recently started a group where we're sharing devotionals and stuff. And in yours, you talked about discernment. Yeah. And you talked about, you know, that you feel like you've been given a gift by God to maybe discern. And I remember you sharing that before also. But I had a question for you. With that gift and discernment, should that change the way we act? Like, how do you use that? Because I would think I would be like, you know, I want to be uniform with other people. And even if I see that maybe their heart's not right. So as someone who does have that gift that you do, how do you go about using that?
Yeah, so I learned this at Teen Challenge. I felt like I could pick up on things like, for one, I want to say this, discernment is not really for me to judge you and judge what's motivating you. It's for me to judge me and what's motivating me, and to just discern that spirit. But there is a discernive spirits where you just you can just sense, you can see things or whatever, I guess you say, so to speak, and you can discern whether, you know, I should hang around this person or what's going on there. But so how would I? Pastor Bill actually, this is gonna be a cool story because it incorporates Corey too and the whole Teen Challenge. Yeah. I was working in the office. I was on junior staff, and Corey came in, and he was just about to graduate, and he would go to talk to Pastor Bill, and he leaves, and I'm just start crying, and I'm trying to hide it, you know. And Pastor Bill goes like, "Are you all right? Are you crying?" I'm like, "No, I'm crying." You're crying. And so he's like, "Come to my office," and I'm like, "All right." And then so I just tell him, like, I don't know, I just felt something. And Corey walked in, I just felt heaviness, like, I'm worried, what's he gonna do? I can sense like an uneasiness, like he's not sure where he's going, I don't think. And I always felt something for Corey. Like, from the moment I met him, I felt like he's got a little brother spirit, you know, to him almost, where, you know what I mean? So I was and he's like, explain this to me. It's to intercessor's heart, where sometimes God will share his heart for something with you, for a person, or you can just feel their heart and their emotions, and what you're supposed to do with that is pray for them. So I think the same runs true with discernment. And I noticed this too when I started noticing that I felt like I had a strong sense of discernment. but I knew if this was from God, it had to be for something good, and it wasn't to judge somebody
Oh.
or to condemn them.
Yeah.
So then I turn it into, if I sense that, if I see that, then I need to pray about that, and I need to, pray that whatever it is, and I need to be understanding of whatever that comes from, that it's, who knows where it comes from? I don't know. I just know that it's something that I want them to remove and get closer to Jesus. I want Jesus to get in there, in that area.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It can be maybe a burden to carry too. Or like, have you ever been wrong about it?
I worked for a boss, my old boss. He said this about me. We were at a party, a work party. It was at the end of years. It was right before I was leaving. Eventually fired me. But he said that I had strong discernment, because everybody that he's a friend of mine. He goes to church, but everybody that I said, there was something not right. They're not in this for the right reason. They're not part of the team, and I was always right.
Yeah.
So no, I don't even know where I was getting with that. But you said, has it ever been? What have I been wrong?
Yeah. Because that'd be confusing.
Yeah, I think I've been wrong, because maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think what it was more of is it I confused it sometimes with just my own maybe judgment, and using it in a way to just be judgmental, or to just justify not liking somebody, and then therefore I can say, hey, this person's wrong, therefore I don't have to like them anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So my responsibility of loving them is then easier to rationalize and say, I can turn love off for this one because of this discernment that I have about them, that's not good. So I don't know if I've been wrong too much about it, but I know I've used it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Do you feel like you can love someone and not like them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because who cares if you like them anyways,
Right.
If you love them, if you truly love them, it's way more important. It's going to do way more than liking them. And yeah, I think if you love them though,
maybe liking makes it about us.
Yeah.
And loving makes it about them.
yeah,
Or God.
I think so. I think you're right. I think the thing about that is, I think sometimes people tend to surround themselves more around people they actually like,
Yeah.
instead of people they actually love. And so I think you see, and I mean that like in the church, like instead of having everybody at church hanging out, they got their own groups of people they hang out with. But they don't necessarily love them like you love a fellow believer.
Right.
But you like them, you like their personality, and they're easy to hang out with. But that's like, I think that's missing in the church a lot,
So you feel it's important to be around people that maybe you don't necessarily like?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
because they're probably different from you, and that's probably why you don't like them. And I think it's important to be around those people that are different from us.
Yeah.
Like
That's something that's been a huge blessing for me, is to be around people that were different from me.
yeah,
And that I think I saw that as a gift from God pretty early on,
yeah,
and I don't know why, but
yeah. I could see that with you.
yeah.
I could see you being totally cool with being around different people and appreciating that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yo, is there a verse that you really stand on, or?
Yeah. I was just thinking about it. It was actually, we talked about it earlier. Now I'm drawing a blank. Wow. Let me look it up.
All right.
On my flip.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yo, they
boy.
got Bible stuff on there?
They got Google.
Do you really?
Barely. And YouTube. Yeah.
Remember texting on those things? You still do.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
so
you remember.
annoying. I don't even like using that I just don't even use it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a pain. But it gets the job done.
Yo, your biceps are massive. You love working out.
Yeah.
Will you talk about that? I know
Yeah.
we've got a lot of teaching that I know working out is very valuable to me.
Yeah.
And I know it's a gift from God.
Mm.
Is there a fine line on that where it becomes
Yeah.
You know, because I'm just saying that because we've heard a lot that it profits little.
Oh, right.
You know.
Physical exercise profits little.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no. Yeah, I struggled with that at Teen Challenge. You know, I would put myself through a fast of exercising where I can't work out because I wanted to rid myself of making that idol. I made that an idol before. But like now it's easier because my day is so jam-packed with being a dad and working and all that. It's low. It's cool because I'm realizing as I speak how low I've put that on the totem pole. And now that I've done that, it's so easy to me to do it. Like I don't have to force it. I used to lie about going to the gym.
Yeah.
Like I used to have to lie about it and like sneak to the gym because I was that much obsessed with it and had that much stock in it, you know. But now it's just like I get to, and that's great, and I get to make, and you know, more freedom you get, the more you get to structure your own life, and then you can make time for those things because you are living well and you're capable to do that. But I think it's we're 3-part beings, you know. We're spirit, body, and mind. And if you ever feel out of whack, my pastor talks about this, is you got to check one of those things. That's you check. Are you being healthy?
Yeah.
Physically, or are you feeding yourself spiritually? And how's your mind? Like, you know, how's your emotions? What are you doing? You know, so it's part of it.
Yeah.
It's all balance.
It's a very introspective way, or I've noticed you say, like, you really are thoughtful about your actions and the steps you take towards walking towards Christ.
Yeah, you gotta be.
Yeah.
Gotta be intentional. It's not something you can do just waking up, you know, you gotta be intentional. More so the younger we are, you know, and we're still new Christians in a lot of ways, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like anything else. It's work and intention, but obviously you know how much it's not work, you know. It's just a little blessing.
Yeah. Yo, I love hearing about like supernatural moves of God and stuff.
Yeah.
And I told you how I'm excited for the future because I know that God is gonna. People will share amazing stories and redemption stories and stuff. Is there something maybe that God has done in your life that is supernatural to you? That
supernatural. I have two thoughts about that. I want to touch on one is, well, the first one I'll answer your question is when we were at Teen Challenge. My son, when I went into Teen Challenge, before we went there, we took him to the doctors. He was born with a cavity, so to speak, a hole right here in his chest. It's a very small one, but we noticed it because it got red and we got infected. So we took him to the doctor, and they said he's going to need surgery, but he's too small at that time. We got to wait till he gets a little bigger. So we're like, all right, we'll prolong it till I'm done with Teen Challenge. It'll be a good time to get it done. So while we were in Teen Challenge, I had the prayer request, and never had to have it. It closed up. It was gone.
What?
Yeah. That was very early on in Teen Challenge.
Yeah.
I made it a prayer request, and it was literally gone within weeks.
Wow.
Never had to do the surgery. But the thing about I have a thing about where I don't want to say I can't stand, but I hate hearing about these radical stories of where somebody was in addiction and then boom, they met Jesus or something, and boom, never again to live for God. It's like, I've never seen it happen.
Yeah,
now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. You know, I know God can do stuff like that. But I hate to celebrate that because I think it just demeans like the guys who are working and have relapses and struggle, and this is actually a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know, like we get a lot of grace, no doubt about it. God gives us a lot of grace, but you have to change a lot. You got to change everything. Like, I think it kind of, I know, even my pastor talks about it sometimes, would talk about it, like we want to see these radical stories. Now I get it, because you know what that does? That brings unbelievers in. That draws them in. That says, wow, look at the power. Look at this wonder, this sign, you know?
Yeah, the Red Sea.
Yeah, but for me, it's more like, yeah, kind of, you know.
I think that's almost part of the gift, though.
Yeah.
Is that God maybe won't hit the switch right away, and He'll help you work through it. So when you look back, you can see, like, I counted on God, and He helped me through this. And maybe that would mean more to us.
Yeah.
than if he would just take away.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I wouldn't. If he just did that to me, I would be out again.
Yeah.
You know, like
True.
Maybe he's gonna zap me again, and I'll be good.
It's probably like winning the lottery or something.
Yeah.
Like you don't value the money because you never worked for it.
Yeah, and he knows who to probably do that with and who not to. You know.
I mean, he could still do it to me. I would be happy.
I'd be cool with that.
Dang. I always like talking about worship at Teen Challenge too.
Mm-hmm.
I think I knew that I loved to worship when I left there and I was alone. But it was something that it was a process I learned through that, and to be honest, like say I go to church now, I don't worship the same.
Yeah.
And it's something I'm working on. I think it's because maybe insecurity or something, or a new place, or like and maybe it goes back to what you said, that we thrive there. And that I was like my true self there. And I think I'm working towards that. Do you feel like any separation from the way you were there to the way you are here?
There's little things that I don't do that I've recently been brought to my attention because the pastor is calling for people to do it here, and it's like praying for each other. That's something we used to do all the time. Yeah. Like even in the hallways. Yeah. But he's talking about like even in this service, like he wants to see people, you know, praying for each other, and it's weird that there's such a thing now that I don't do that. Yeah. And like it's almost like uncomfortable to even think about doing it. And so it's like, yeah, I don't do that, and I think that's just because I'm out of practice with it. But I've always felt, I mean, I love worshiping here. I still worship the same. I still come to the altar. I still, you know, do the Pentecostal thing. Yeah. And is it a Pentecostal church you go to?
Grand Rapids First. I think that might be Assemblies of God.
Assemblies of God, yeah. So they.
Same thing probably.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So they do they're with it. Yeah. When it comes to worshiping. Oh, but are people as
they're engaged?
They're engaged with it. Do they come to the altar? Do they?
Yeah, they do.
You're just not as. You just don't feel it yourself.
I think I want to.
Yeah.
I just.
That's interesting. How long have you been going there?
A year.
Okay.
It's been a great church.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's just been harder to. Maybe a lot of things have.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But even praying for people, like, that was always a hard thing for me. Like, anything that's sort of an outgoing thing tends to be difficult for me. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the things where, when I went to Teen Challenge, I really addressed them, you know? Yeah. Like, all right, I'm raising my hands, I'm going up to the altar. It seemed like, I think we all kind of had that in us where it's like, all right, if I feel like I'm being tugged to do that, I'm going to go do that. And we challenged ourselves in that way. True. And if you get out of that, I think it becomes hard again to do it. Like, yeah. I know I feel this weird thing like praying for people now. It's just like so weird that it's so kind of silly, you know? Yeah. Kind of angers me almost myself, like, what's wrong with you? Dude, just do it.
Yeah. I feel vulnerable. Maybe that's why. Yeah. And you wonder how they're going to react. And I know it's not about that, but that's how I feel.
And also sometimes I feel like I overthink it. Yeah. You know?
Like, I'm pretty good at that.
Like I'm thinking, are they going to think I'm being genuine? Do they think I'm doing this for show? Yeah. Am I doing it for show? Right. Like, should I be doing this if I'm not living like John the Baptist 24/7? You know. Right. But I think that's all just baloney. You know, talking yourself out of doing something.
Yeah, you feel like the enemy is in there.
Yeah, it's at least your mind. At least you know, maybe not the devil himself, but you know your mind is playing tricks on you.
Yeah, sometimes I assign a lot to the devil. You know? I give him a little more credit than he deserves.
Yeah, it's easy to do.
Was it always easy for you to pray for people like that? I remember you praying for me a lot. Yeah. You know, we'd be in worship, and man, it's such a needed thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I know, something feels really good about it too. You know. Yeah. In Teen Challenge, it became real easy. Yeah. And now it's still easy when I do it. But sometimes I just don't do it. I don't feel the tug as often now. But I think a lot of it is to do with just not, because you're not doing it very often. Yeah. I think it's kind of also we're in the Western church, you know, we're in America, and we confine church to church building sometimes, and we're not out there praying in the street. We're not laying hands on people. We're not doing a lot of things. Because we're just so trapped in this box of what church is and what it looks like a lot of times, I think.
Are you hopeful for the church?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how do you see it in the future?
Man, I see really good things because I see a generation, us, and in the one that's coming underneath us, is hungry people for truth.
Yeah.
And if you're hungry for truth, cool, because it's going to end up you going to Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, so.
True.
And they're hungry.
Yeah.
People are hungry, man. They're so tired of being fed these baloney, you know.
True.
So I'm really hopeful for it.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
It's true. If you're a seeker, you will find God, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why.
Or He'll find you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, like I have a Shar, who's the mother of my child. She has a brother who struggles with. We don't know where he's at. He's not a believer, I guess.
Yeah.
And but he's a truth seeker.
Yeah.
So I'm like, he's gonna get there.
Yeah.
You know. So.
How do you go about that? Giving someone the right space.
Yeah.
And because that's a hard thing too. You know, we want people to feel the same peace that we have, and like that when there's chaos all around, to feel that peace.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you go about unbelievers and?
You got to live it. You got to preach with your life and not with your words. Nobody needs to hear the gospel verbally, you know, probably in the neighborhood you live in.
Yeah.
As much as they need to see it. They
Right.
need to see it. America, non-believers are tired of hearing about it and not seeing it. And
Yeah.
they need to see it.
It's probably confusing. It makes you question.
Yeah, and then you got the media who makes us all out to be hypocrites, and there's a lot of ways to trash Christians and put false, pretenses and concepts in people's heads and ideas about how they're bigots and how they're so judgmental and how they hate gay people and how they hate. It's like it's the opposite of what we are.
We're people of love.
Yeah, we love you.
Yeah.
Like but I mean, there's a good reason why they think that.
Yeah.
The church got it wrong for a while, I think, at least here in America.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think all those people that, if I ever talk to them one-on-one, they would know, Or like, or they should maybe.
Yeah.
I'd be hopeful that they would feel that.
Feel the love?
Feel the love.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I want to leave people with, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Because then they'll meet another guy who's a good guy, and eventually they'll see, I think, Jesus,
Right.
I mean, that's one way to go about it. We're missionaries in every field of work we go into. Shar's mom, she's like my hero. She's working at Meyer, for 20 years, almost 14, 15 years, something like that. But she just does the small, simple things. She loves people, she accepts them, she meets them where they're at. And it's just like in that every day where you're just being very loving and accepting and serving God in the most personal, not personal, but most fundamental ways, like in your daily life. It's just like, that's where it's at,
She's been a great example.
Oh yeah, dude, she's like my mom. She's like can you believe it? You know what I mean? Like, I was in my mess with her daughter, not a good boyfriend, terrible, and yet she decided to love me. Like, what mom, what dad, what parent nobody wants that.
Yeah.
The thought would be, get away from my daughter,
Right.
But Jesus, like, that's the only explanation you have for that.
You said she decided.
She did decide.
Yeah.
Yeah, she decided.
Whoa.
Yeah, she was a decision, conscious, and I saw the turn, where it's like, I think she spoke about it with me. She was like, I mean, he's a Christian, and I'm supposed to be loving him. What am I doing? And boom, it was just like, yeah, I love that woman.
Wow. I think that is a very helpful thing, that we can decide.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a gift from God too.
Oh yeah, that's love. When you choose to love those who you are almost justified to not love.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's not.
That's where we need it. Yeah. That's what Jesus did.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to love the lovable. It's easy to love me when I'm sober and I'm doing good and I'm helping you and I'm not causing any pain. But try doing it when they're hanging you on a cross.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Dude.
You want to hear a cool thing?
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's cool, but it's interesting. Mary gave up Jesus to be on the tree of life. the cross, they say, was made from the tree of life. So think about that. Jesus gave himself, God gave his son to die for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mary gave her child back on the tree of life. And they say that I guess one part of the wood was made from the tree of life, and the other one was made of something else. But the whole thing about it is, a mother is supposed to give their self, or a child is they got to give their child over to the world.
Kind of like let them go.
Let them go.
Whoa.
So yeah.
And you feel like that's a woman's responsibility, or a thing they have to do?
They have to do. That's a big sacrifice, you know. You have to, yeah. It's like the ultimate sacrifice. Yeah. It's so crazy though. When more you learn about the Bible and stuff, you see how much like that theme is repeated. You know, like these things that you just read the story once and you didn't get that from it, but sacrifice is like one of my favorite quotes is, you can sacrifice without love, but you cannot love without sacrifice.
You can sacrifice without love, but you can't love without sacrifice.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That is a good quote.
Yeah, that's really good. Yep.
That describes love.
Yeah.
Yo, Thomas, thank you for doing this.
Thank you, brother. I was still thinking about that verse, and I can't remember. I knew I was going to draw a blank when the video camera came up.
Dude, this happens to me every time. I have this whole list of stuff I want to talk about, but yo, I've always looked up to you.
Thanks, brother.
I've always appreciated you, and it has been awesome to just talk about God with you.
Yeah.
I know we're doing it here, but I mean, even outside of here.
Oh, yeah.
And we've always picked up where we left off. Every time I see you, it's like we never left, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. I think that's God, too.
You know what? Let me ask you this. When you rolled up, you know, I remember I had this feeling. And I remember I used to get this feeling when I would go out and do things, you know?
Bad things?
Bad things and just fun things.
Oh, okay.
But it's like this. You're almost, you get really excited, and you almost get like a feeling of anything can happen. Like, you're not standing on solid ground anymore. You're kind of like, hey, let's just go off in the whim and just go party. You know what I mean? Like, it's not this. Now, that's not the thought. But do you ever feel like that when you're taking these long drives and you're like, is it almost familiar to when you would go off and do your own thing but not good?
Yes, dude. It's God filling the gaps of where. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's like those same things, like that wildness. Yeah. You know, it's like a funnel towards it to use it in the right way.
Yeah.
Is how cool. I feel about it.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool to you identify that and like hold on to that, make sure that's what you're doing now. And you recognize it and then you do that with it. Yeah. Because I felt that. I hadn't felt that in a long time. And it was kind of like, I don't like that. You know? I don't like that feeling. Get out of here, Lord. No, just kidding. No, not you. But you know what I mean. Yeah. Yeah, it's just getting back with your buddies, and it's just like, hey, this is too familiar of that. Well, you know what it is? I think a big part of it is freedom. I have the freedom right now to do something bad. I have freedom right now. And now it's like, you have experience with not doing so well with that freedom. Yeah. In that area. So, yep. Yeah, I could see how that would bring back that stuff. Yeah. Yo, you did make me remember one of the questions I want to talk about. Yeah. It's the presence of God. Yeah. And has that ever come across you in a way that was powerful? Yeah. Two real quick ones I'll do. One was right here. I was sitting here, and this goes back to like the father thing and not having a father type of thing. And God pretty much told me, like, if I ever would have gave you an earthly father, you would put him in a place that was only reserved for me. And after that, I never felt the urge to look for a father figure. I never placed anybody in that area and even hope for it anymore. I was totally fine with never really having that anymore because now I got that revelation. And then one was I was in that room over here, about to be men's group, and I felt God. I had just relapsed and feeling condemned, and I felt God tell me, he's like, you know, Thomas, I knew you were gonna fall. You know, I was just waiting to catch you. And then I was like, yeah, but how many times are you gonna catch me? You know, he's like, as I'm gonna always catch you. And then he's like, but please stop falling because it hurts to watch you fall. And I felt God's love above any condemnation, any judgment, any thought of I disappointed him. I just felt heartache for hurting God. For the first time, I felt like I hurt him in an emotional way. And it was just like such a switch in thought and in the way I felt about things that I did.
Yeah.
But it was so good, man. It was just like, that's how much he loves you, like, you know what I mean?
He said I would always catch you.
I always catch you, but please stop
stop
falling, because it hurts to watch you fall. Yeah.
It's hard to think about us grieving God
Yeah, man.
and the Holy Spirit.
And I think that's a better way to think about it, though.
Yeah.
Than you're upsetting him. You know, because you can grow resentment out of that.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're just hurting him, this is like, oh, I don't want to hurt him. You know, I don't want to disappoint him. But even more so, I don't want to hurt him. You know. Yeah, there's my pastor. Vintage group coming up. You gonna hang out for it?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Yeah.
Stick around.
Let's do
Yo,
that.
what's being led by the Spirit like, real quick, before we go?
It's being sensitive, being real sensitive to his direction, and really, it's more for me. It's not so much where to go, how to do it, what to do. It's I'm recognizing that word that I just said doesn't line up with something in me. And now I'm losing some bit of peace that I had before I said that word, or I participated in that. And that's the Holy Spirit. You know, that's like something's pulling me away from that communion. So
it's a correction.
yeah, it's a union. And anytime I'm doing something that's interrupting that, that's like, I don't want to do that, you know. Being sensitive to that, I think. Man, that can be a subtle thing too, you know. You can all of a sudden I haven't been very close to him lately. But lately it's been pretty good. Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, being led by God. Yeah, I think you hit it. It's being sensitive towards things of God. Maybe being open to, like laying yourself down.
Yeah.
It's just like kind of, because I have all these expectations of things of where you talked about earlier, where we should be, and that we never live up to that. But I have found the times I have been the most flexible and the most of like you said, anything can happen type thing in a godly way, that I have seen the fruit from that.
Yeah.
And that I've seen God maybe impact my life.
Yeah.
In a way that if I wasn't sensitive to that, I wouldn't have got that thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And it's almost like he gives us these little Easter eggs all over, like these nuggets that are there for the taking.
Yeah.
But if you're not aligned, you don't see them.
Yep, you miss it.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing, is you can miss it.
Dude, I don't want to miss it.
Yeah, no, I don't want to miss it either. Yep.
But I think he's good to us, and I think he'll give us what we need, you know, when we need it also.
Yeah, if you're following God, you're not going to miss it.
Yeah.
But you can miss it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's possible.
It's like, but if you're following God, he'll reveal that to you. You know, you're not going to miss out on anything. But scary thing is some of our family members, some of the people, you know, they're going to miss it. It's one of those things.
Yeah, scary thought.
Yeah.
Yo, love you, dude. Put it in the old
brother.
vice, huh?
Yeah.
It's been fun. Thank you.